So very early on we joined the local benchmarking group, and that's made up of a mixture of local farmers and corporate farmers. It's one of the largest benchmarking groups in Australia. There's 87 different entities in that group. The information gained was vitally important to how we drove the productivity of the farm. Here we are 8 years later, and we've had 8 years in that benchmarking group. And I can proudly say in 2017-18 we topped the benchmarking group for barley. That leads into our top 20% strategy, and that is around getting better plant numbers to give us better yield, making sure every single plant comes out of the ground, every single seed needs to develop $1. And then to make all of that happen, the machinery has to be right. So we've worked really hard on the timing, coming in and hitting the front of the window with the crop and when that's got to happen, and then combining that all together to make sure we come out the other end and we see the beautiful crops behind us as a result.
Part of our push to really to be in that top 20% of producers that we benchmarked against, it's been a real focus at Bramble to really push our high yielding areas, which is probably most important, is zoning those soils to understand what the constraints are, and also understand the benefits that we can get by pushing those soils as hard as we possibly can to get our maximum return. When we started our controlled traffic, stubble retention, minimum till, we've seen a real reduction in compaction in the soil. The stubble that we're retaining is really helping as a barrier against the sun. We've got really good soil moisture retention, and as a result, over time, certainly over the first 4 or 5 years, we've seen massive changes in the soil. It's friable, it's soft, and the results are here. You can see behind me now. So the benefits of what we're doing is really starting to pay off, and it's extremely evident. Probably no more so than last year. At One Tree Hill, for example, in a decile 1 rainfall year, we still achieved 2.5 tonnes of canola in a very low rainfall year. We also achieved 4.5 tonnes of wheat at Oakbank North in a decile 1 rainfall year.
We started a venture of building bunkers to store grain, and since then we've grown our grain storage complex to have a capacity of about 35,500 tonne. We're sort of looking at potentially saving about $10 to $12 a tonne by just holding the grain ourselves. The storage here at UR has also allowed us to control our harvest a lot more. We don't get held up in a queue waiting to tip grain. When the weather's coming in, we know when our bunker complex is going to be open, we know when it's going to be closed. What we're aiming to do is basically store all our grain on farm and then market it later, and this has given us a lot of opportunities in marketing the grain. We've been able to control our grades a lot more accurately to what the end user wants. We can really specify, protein and retention and moisture around, what the customer wants, and then store that grain how he wants it, and then deliver it in segregations to how best suits the end user.
So with the trials, I've been able to really look at honing in on specific areas that farm managers have wanted to explore in creating some of those small percentage gains that in the long run add up to big wins for their on-farm productivity. The trials we've been involved with in Lawson Grains as a whole have been all about reducing our inputs and hopefully in the long run reducing our carbon emissions. So one trial in particular that we've got running this year aims to reduce our total urea application by up to 40% by the use of incorporating a biological component in our applications at sowing and also just after sowing.
Sustainability in agriculture for me is, it just goes hand in hand. Like we've got to be here for a long time. I've been in agriculture for a long time. I'd like my children to keep going in agriculture as well, and they certainly look like they're going to be doing so. If I want my kids and my grandkids to be in agriculture for a long time, we've got to do it right. And that includes looking after the soil first and foremost. It's so important. That holds all our nutrients, it stores our moisture and allows us to grow beautiful crops like this. So without sustainability in our system, we're not doing anything.
We are Lawson Grains.